Tonight we begin with a tense standoff between the United States and Venezuela. After a brief suspension, Venezuela has agreed to resume accepting deportation flights from the U.S., following threats from President Trump to close Venezuelan airspace entirely. These flights, a rare point of cooperation, have returned over 13,000 Venezuelan migrants to Caracas since the program began. The Trump administration frames this as a victory, continuing its push to remove Venezuelan nationals who entered the U.S. illegally. The Maduro regime, meanwhile, claims it's responding to a U.S. request, not bowing to threats. This diplomatic back-and-forth highlights the deep mistrust and volatility between the two governments. The U.S. does not recognize Nicolas Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate leader, viewing him instead as the head of a criminal cartel. Even routine agreements like deportation flights have become flashpoints for conflict. The resumption of flights is less about cooperation and more about brinkmanship. Underneath, the core issues remain unresolved, and the relationship is as fragile as ever. The situation is a stark reminder of how quickly diplomatic ties can unravel. The Trump administration's hardline stance is rooted in its view of Venezuela as a narco-state. Officials accuse the Maduro regime of enabling drug trafficking and sending criminals across the U.S. border. The administration claims Venezuela is intentionally exporting dangerous individuals to destabilize American communities. This narrative recasts Venezuela's government as a criminal cartel, not a political entity. The fight against Venezuelan-linked cartels is now central to the U.S. war on fentanyl, which is the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49. The administration argues that dismantling these networks is essential to saving American lives. This approach marks a shift from diplomacy to direct action, fulfilling Trump's campaign promise to get tough on crime and border security. The message: the U.S. is prepared to use forceful measures to stop what it sees as a direct threat. President Trump's approach to Venezuela is the fulfillment of a long-standing promise to crack down on crime and illegal immigration. He labels Maduro not as a president, but as a cartel leader, reframing the conflict as a law enforcement operation rather than a diplomatic dispute. This language justifies aggressive actions that might otherwise be seen as acts of war. The administration is mobilizing all resources, diplomatic, economic, intelligence, and military, to confront what it calls the Maduro cartel. With a renewed mandate, Trump is pushing his most ambitious policies, linking border security directly to the fight against international crime. The focus on Venezuela serves to address domestic concerns about drugs and crime, while projecting strength abroad. The administration presents the fight against Maduro as a fight for American safety. This strategy provides a clear villain and a simple solution to complex problems. The White House is signaling that all options are on the table. The stakes are high, and the administration is determined to deliver on its promises. For Trump, Venezuela is both a foreign adversary and a domestic political target. The Trump administration's rhetoric is now matched by a powerful military presence near Venezuela. A U.S. carrier task force, including the USS Gerald R. Ford and advanced fighter jets, has been deployed off the Venezuelan coast. Officially, the mission is to disrupt drug trafficking, but the scale suggests readiness for much more. Recent airstrikes on suspected drug smuggling vessels mark a dramatic escalation. The administration claims these boats could carry enough fentanyl to kill thousands, framing the strikes as self-defense. Lawmakers have expressed alarm at the level of force, warning of unintended consequences. The line between counter-narcotics and open conflict is blurring. President Trump hints that land-based strikes on cartel facilities could be imminent. The region is on high alert, with the risk of conflict growing by the day. The U.S. is making it clear: military action is no longer just a threat, it's a reality. The administration's aggressive foreign policy is directly tied to the opioid crisis at home. Officials argue that stopping fentanyl at its source requires military action against international cartels, especially those linked to Venezuela. Each strike on a suspected drug vessel is presented as a victory in the fight to save American lives. This narrative shifts focus from domestic addiction and treatment to a battle against a foreign enemy. The administration uses the fentanyl death toll to justify military spending and risk. The message: extraordinary threats demand extraordinary measures. The strategy is designed to rally public support for actions that would otherwise be seen as extreme. The war on drugs has become a literal war, with Venezuela at the center. The Venezuela crackdown is also reshaping life in American cities. New Orleans is the latest target of federal immigration raids, focused on deporting undocumented immigrants accused of violent crimes. The administration blames sanctuary city policies for releasing dangerous individuals, arguing that federal intervention is necessary. Many of those targeted are Venezuelan nationals, making the resumption of deportation flights critical. This creates a feedback loop. Problems attributed to Venezuelan migrants justify tougher action against Maduro, which in turn enables more aggressive enforcement at home. For cities like New Orleans, this means more raids and a climate of fear in immigrant communities. The geopolitical conflict is having immediate real-world consequences on American streets. The nation stands at a crossroads, with tensions running high at home and abroad. Aggressive military moves, ongoing deportations, and political brinkmanship have created a volatile situation. The threat of escalation, possibly even strikes inside Venezuela, looms large. Domestically, the crackdown on immigrants is set to intensify, with more raids and family separations likely. The administration argues these actions are necessary to combat crime and the fentanyl crisis. Critics warn of the human cost and the risk of a wider conflict. For now, both the region and the U.S. remain on edge, waiting to see what comes next.